Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Here's your Rotherham 1, Watford 4 match reaction. We're joined by Sam, Elliot, and the mate man, Rookery Mike, Mike Parkin. Thank you so much for coming on today, mate. We'll kick it off with you. First off, how are you doing? And second of all, you must be buzzing after tonight's win.
Absolutely, mate. Buzzing is the word. Yeah, really professional, I thought, from Watford. They could have gone on, if we're being picky, to probably win it a bit more comfortably by more goals. I think Andre Gray might be counting a couple of the chances he missed on the coach home, but that's being nitpicky. Overall, I thought it was a really, really professional job. As soon as that first goal went in, you felt it was job done. And with results elsewhere this evening, it's a really good evening's work for Watford, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Results have definitely gone our way. Sam, on the Watford performance tonight, what particularly caught your eye? 4 goals. It was pretty much wrapped up by half-time, wasn't it? But there was a few moments in the second half, a little bit nervy.
I thought particularly, do you know what? Like, being honest, I didn't think we started too well. First 10, 15 minutes, I thought it took us some time to kind of get into the game. And I think it only really took until the first goal for us to really settle down. I thought Sierralta was absolutely outstanding again tonight. I know we say it every single time, and that goal really capped it off. But I feel like in that first 10 minutes, it's a bit of a stretch to say he kept us in the game. But I thought he really kept that back line in check and kind of allowed us to, have the foundation to go on and win the game. But generally, I thought we after that first 10 minutes and some elements of the second half, we were pretty much in control and never really looked like losing the game. So I'd say that's the most pleasing thing tonight.
Elliot, is that the thing for you, in control of that game for us? Because as Sam mentioned, we were a little bit slow at the traps for the first maybe 10 minutes or so, but I think the Sierralta goal definitely put the nerves to bed, and from that point onwards, it did feel like we were in control. What was your take on it?
Yeah, it was good to get the early goal, and I think ultimately it was quite a complete performance. I think we did control the game. We were obviously the better team, and overall it was just a pretty good job, and we seemed to just get the points and be done with it. And to do that away from home, I know I've said it countless times in match previews and match reactions, how important it is to get on the right track when it comes to away form. But I'm just delighted that we seem to have got over the struggles that we had away in previous weeks, because that was the home standard away from home. Obviously, we can mention the fact that Rotherham's pitch was pretty good tonight, and I'm sure that played a part. But yeah, it's just good to see us play so confidently away, which is now seems to be the norm. So really happy with what was a complete performance and a deserved victory. And we didn't slip over the banana skin, which is always the worry when you come up against a side that's lower in the table. And they had so much going against them tonight, so it felt very Watford.
Very Watford, yeah.
Gone there
Right, you see that a lot more than us.
Last minute winner, yeah.
Yeah, it's why my hair's like this.
Mike, be honest, were you a little bit worried going into tonight with everything kind of stacked against Rotherham? It would be typical Watford to maybe put in a poor performance.
Absolutely. We've just done the podcast and I've said I defy any Watford fan who's been watching them for any amount of time not to have had nerves tonight. It's got to have Rotherham 1, Watford 0 written all over it. And I think Sam's absolutely right. I thought we did struggle. I thought Watford did start slowly for the first probably only 5 or 6 minutes. So we've probably been a little bit nitpicky. But I make Sam absolutely right. It felt, and I thought, we're slow here. We haven't really come out of the blocks. We haven't really hit our stride as I'd liked us to. And this could end up being a dodgy evening. But I thought once we struck, and I think it was again down to Ismaila Sarr. I thought his quick thinking and his determination just to win that corner, we were up and running. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? There's 9 games left now, and I think we're all starting to feel the tension, feel the nerves. It's been a brilliant result tonight. But I think it does us good to remember that we did have a little sticky patch, and we're not going to have it all our way. But yeah, as Sam and Elliot have both said there, it was a thoroughly professional performance, and it could have been difficult. We've seen Brentford tonight. They've go 2-0 up at Derby, who've got their own struggles. They would have thought they would have seen that game out, and they didn't manage to do it. Will Hoskins was funny, I thought, at half-time in Hive Live. He was saying, Rotherham could get back into it if they nick one. And, of course, they had a penalty. So it could have been a bit different. But I think overall it would have taken a very, very strong Rotherham fan. Perhaps the guy that was shouting, "Come on, you Millers."
Yeah, that was relentless, wasn't it?
I was loving it.
to argue that they deserve something out of that.
Sam, we'll go through the goals, actually. We'll start off with Sierralta's goal. He did take a bash to the head, didn't he? But I think the main bit that's caught Watford fans on social media is Philip Zinkenagle's cross. He was brilliant tonight, wasn't he? Do you want to maybe touch on PZ7 and the impact he made tonight?
Absolutely superb. Like, I think I tweeted out that he's now arrived, because I feel like, I think it took him some time to bed into this Watford side, even to start games. And I feel like now he's starting games And with minutes, he's really taking it to the next level. I feel like every time he has the ball at his feet, you just feel like something's going to happen. He's thinking of moving the ball forward, something that, we've kind of criticised this Watford team for earlier this season, that perhaps they were too sideways and backwards. But, the quality he possesses with his foot is just unbelievable. And, 2 assists tonight and another amazing cross for the second goal, which wasn't credited to him as well. But, superb to see him doing well. And, if you haven't watched our interview yet, make sure to go and have a look.
I was going to say, lads, it's ever since you spoke to him that he's really caught fire, hasn't it?
What can we say?
You boys can take the credit for that one.
Still waiting for the goal to see the goal celebration, though. But, that
you know what it might be, Mike? It's when I got his name printed on the back of the away shirt. I wore it tonight and he got 2 assists. Maybe we could say a hat-trick of assists. Elliot, for you, with Philip, one thing that's kind of we forget about is that he's actually playing out of position. Right? We mentioned it on the interview. He loves playing out wide. He loves getting the balls into the box. But he's changed his role, and the way he's adapted has been fantastic. Just on his performance tonight, what did you make of him? Because you're a massive PZ7 fan.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was exactly what I was going to go into.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, this is no disrespect to Ken Sema, because I think he had another great performance tonight. But at times it was like Philip Zinkernagel was playing in central midfield, in attacking midfield, and on the left at the same time, because the way he drifts out wide and supports the attack and supports the wide play that we possess is incredible. And we're starting to see exactly what we got from Bodo Glimt in January. And it's getting to the point where, like Sierralta, like Hiko Femenir, we're just talking about the same thing every week, where we're saying Zinkernagel had a great game again today. And he's just very intelligent on the ball. He picks the right pass. There's never much complacency there, and he's playing in an unfamiliar position. So I think we could have probably gone, well, fair enough, that's all right, if he'd have had a couple of shaky performances and had a bit of a shaky start, because it's difficult to come to England in a physical league and to struggle in central midfield when you're right in the thick of it. But he's adapted immediately, and he looks absolutely brilliant, and he looks comfortable. And again, he's in central midfield. It's incredible. And he's only going to improve from here, and he's only going to get more goals and more assists. So yeah, another terrific performance from him today, and the only way is up as well from him, which is even better. Yeah,
exactly that. Mike, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the midfield dynamic of Watford this season, with the midfield three actually of Hughesy, Chalobah and Zinkernagel. What have you made of it? And Cleverley's had a lot of plaudits this season, and rightly so, but the way Zinkernagel stepped in, Chalobah looks back to his best. What have you made of the three, and that the way those three have adapted?
Yeah, I have to say, I was really nervous when Tom Cleverley got injured, because I thought his industry and his experience and just the energy, the ground he covers, I thought that would be a massive miss to us. And I couldn't quite work out if we were going to be able to cover that. But as you rightly point out, Jacob, I don't think we've missed him at all. No discredit to Tom Cleverley, of course. But the three guys you've mentioned have been absolutely brilliant. I mean, you can't talk midfield without talking Will Hughes. Ever since he's been put into his right position, he's just been, he's extraordinary. He has to be one of the best players in the Championship. He's so in control the entire time. He knows exactly what he needs to do for both his defence and going forward. He's strong in the tackle. He's amazing. You don't need me to say that.
I just sorry to interrupt, Mike. I just feel like it's just so good to see. Kind of, it's not even the competition for places, because it's incredibly, Cleverley wasn't dropped, he was injured, but I feel like even though he was, he's been one of our players this season, in my opinion, there is no guarantee he's going to get back into this Watford side, and that's just going to raise the performances of everyone else. And for me, particularly coming up to the run-in, I don't know about you, Mike, but that genuinely pleases me so much.
Absolutely, 100%, because I think we saw it tonight. We were able to make some substitutions probably earlier in the game than we probably would have anticipated, and that's about giving some players some rest. But the quality that we're able to bring on from the squad off the bench tonight is really, really strong, which is encouraging for us as Watford supporters. But you're absolutely right, Sam. There's absolutely no way that Tom Cleverley will be, just because he's fit, will expect to walk back into that midfield. They've just looked so potent in helping set up attacks, and they've done their job defensively as well, and they just look really strong. And I think Nate Chalobah probably deserves some credit for me. I've been one of his fiercest critics. It'll surprise you. No one really escapes my sharp tongue, really. But I think the thing with Nate is that I know that we can get more from him, and I think I've been a bit frustrated sometimes. He's very chippy with the ref sometimes. Occasionally there can be a bit of a lazy foul, and he's better than that. And I think in the last probably since he came back from suspension, certainly, and a couple of games before that, we're seeing that sort of, he's raised it up a level. He's been more, what's the word I'm looking for? He's just been stricter. He's just been all round better. His all round game, he's delivered more. And I thought he was great again tonight for Watford. So, yeah, and the midfield three have defensively we've been strong all season. So they probably don't get as much credit as they deserve because they haven't let many goals in all season. But I think it's the midfield three coming to the party have really freed up the front three as well, because those guys wouldn't have the freedom they do without the work that they do. So absolutely vital component in this Watford side. And like Sam, you're drooling really, aren't you, at the options we've got there at the moment. Absolutely brilliant to watch.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that Dan Gosling goal just in a second or so. Sam, I wanted to touch on Chalobah. Do you think giving him the captaincy has made a difference? Because it seems like in the last couple of games, Nate has really stepped up when he's been given that responsibility of the captain's armband.
I think for me, obviously, the captaincy is important. You know, you want someone, you know, who can kind of embody the values of Watford Football Club on the football pitch to kind of represent the club as captain. But the thing that I look for is leaders on the pitch, regardless of whether they got the captain's armband on. And Nathaniel Chalobah, a lot of players in this side at the moment are showing those leadership qualities that we need to get us over the line this season. And particularly Nathaniel Chalobah, as we're talking about him, I feel like he's leading by example for a lot of players in this squad at the moment. You know, we mentioned when Tom Cleverley was fit, how he'd drive the team forward and really set the tone for everyone else in the team. And Nathaniel Chalobah's filling his boots perfectly. I know it was Inkanag who came in to replace Cleverley, but I feel like Chalobah's taken up that role and he's inspiring those around him, and it's lifting everyone else's performances when you can see the middle of the park controlling the game as they are.
Yeah, another PZ7 assist, Elliot, and on the end of it was Ken Sema, called up to the Sweden squad today, but the technique on that from Ken, it's a brilliant, brilliant goal. The touch, kind of the strike as well. We've discussed it on the channel, haven't we, about Ken's stamina and potentially needed a rest, but actually he was chasing down everything. His energy looked back to his best. Was that the best of Ken Sema again today, Elliot?
Oh, I think I froze for a second there.
That's right.
Yeah, I think he's doing really well at the moment. I think he's generally a bit tired, and I don't want to hold that against him because, again, he showed some terrific little runs, little passes, and I think at points he maybe, you can tell that there are points where he might need a rest, but he didn't seem to let that phase him tonight. I think he was back to his best because we've been quite critical of him lately. I still think he needs a rest, but yeah, another great performance, and he got the goal to top it off, and that is some amazing technique. We know he's good, but I didn't think he had that in his locker to be able to settle it like that and then hit the volley. It was a really, really well hit strike, and it actually rivals Ladapo's that happened later in the game. And in my opinion, anyway, it was a good strike from Ladapo. But yeah, another good performance from Ken Sema, and I think he surprised me because I haven't necessarily written him off since. Well, written off is a harsh word.
We questioned him though, didn't we, Elliot? We have,
because he's sort of slowed down a little bit. He's been a little bit tired, and you can see he's been a bit leggy, and we thought, right, he just needs a week off maybe. But I think he's proven me wrong tonight. I think he's proven a lot of us wrong, and yeah, he's back to his best tonight. So I still think he should get a rest though.
He knew Zlatan will be watching, didn't he? He knew that his teammate would be watching, so he raised it up a notch, I reckon. For
no, Mike, I think you're wrong. Zlatan has posters of Ken Sema on his wall at home.
Super, Mike. I wanted to get your thoughts on João Pedro. Actually, there was a few moments today where he was nutmegging the Rotherham players. You almost felt sorry for them at some point. I find it weird watching someone who's exactly the same age as me leading the line for Watford Football Club. But Mike, in your opinion, João Pedro, every single game, this boy seems to be getting better and better and better. He's such a talent, isn't he?
How do you think it is watching someone who's about a quarter of your age doing it? The guy is just relentless, and he's been like it all season. Whenever he's played for Watford, he's been absolutely huge this season. I just think the confidence he has, the willingness to stand up to the challenges that he's getting. He's playing against some gnarly oppositions that will be treading on his toes. They'll be kneeing him in the back. He'll be getting verbals. He'll be getting kicked up in the air. And as we've seen week in, week out, he just doesn't back down. And more importantly, he backs it up with his skill and ability. And whilst I'd really hoped he was going to get a goal tonight because his recent performances have deserved it. But you can tell he doesn't necessarily need it. He gets his reward from what he gives to the team. And I just think week in, week out, he just defies his age. And it's just, Sam talked about and you've all talked about the discipline and leadership of people like Chalobah, who've been around the block a little bit. But for someone like of Pedro's age, who hasn't really experienced this country much, a young man on his own, learning new language, etc., to turn in just what are mind-blowingly good performances on a regular basis. And I'm exactly like you. You've got to feel sorry for Rotherham defenders. Anyone that comes up against him, really, he's just superb. Quick feet, strong, powerful, and a decent shot as well. Quick pace, never gives up. Supremely fit. I mean, what a guy! What a guy!
He is brilliant. He's such a talent. Sam, on another player who's, I think Mike mentioned at the top of the show on Ismaila Sarr, really did instigate the Watford performance today. Was it a moment in the second half? He went down, he was on his haunches, and we think to ourselves, oh, here we go. Right, we're going into the run in. Ismaila Sarr, we don't want him to be outright. Are you concerned? Are you concerned that potentially could be out? Do you think it's just, I mean, I did hear from John Marks on commentary that he had played, bar today, every single minute of every single game in the last 18 matches. So is this just a case of cramp and tiredness, or do you think it could be a little bit more? Just a prediction. Don't want to say you're the medical team or anything.
I hope it is, but I don't want to liken it because, I don't think it will be a long term out. I think he probably should be fit for the Birmingham game on Saturday, but we can't be doing with, if I'm likening it to last year's running, we can't be doing with another Delafeu sort of injury, if you know what I mean, because we've mentioned it enough. If Delafeu had stayed it, we'd have a much bigger chance of staying up. And I feel like if Ismaila Sarr stays fit, along with a lot of other players in this team, we'll have a much stronger chance of going up. But I don't feel, I get nervous that, particularly with the two wingers, Sarr and Sema, that we are burning them out a bit. Particularly Ken Sema, I was surprised he didn't come off tonight. And it's a shame that, I don't know about Sarr, but Sema going out on international duty. I mean, I'm obviously not one to say, don't go and play for your country. That's ultimately what every player wants. But as a Watford fan, not ideal.
Yeah.
But just Sarr's general performances, particularly since January, I feel have massively gone up since we've gone to the 4-3-3. There's a slight fear, but particularly after January, when his agent came out and said those comments that there was offers on the table for us, but Watford couldn't strike a deal, that perhaps his head would drop, particularly with our performances, arguably getting worse by the week. But recently, in the last 10 games or so, he has massively stepped up and he's becoming probably one of our most important players at the moment. And the quality he's got is just, gets better by the week.
I think that's really important, Sam. Sorry, Jacob, but I think
Go for it.
The improvement in virtually every aspect of Ismaila Sarr's game has been marked. And at the start of the season, we weren't probably playing to his strengths, but how can we get this amazing talent into the game? And you could tell that he was frustrated. His body language was a bit worrying, wasn't it? And then as Sam rightly said, with people coming into him, you worry about how he reacts to that, but not a bit of it. And Elliot's been, like me, has been lucky enough to be at the ground on a number of occasions this season. You can just see the way he patrols around the pitch. He is in charge. He's a man in charge. He's a man on a mission. He knows what damage he can do to the opposition. He knows what he can do for Watford. And to see that transformation has been one of the most exciting things. João Pedro has been performing 8, 9 out of 10 every week. I think Ismaila Sarr's had to build up to it. And he's really, really built up a head of steam now. He is looking absolutely imperious. And like you guys, fingers crossed, it was just an opportunity to get him off and get him rested tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to touch
well.
Sorry. We'll go Elliot, then we'll go Sam. We'll go Elliot, then we'll go Sam.
I think a lot of credit has to go to. I think a lot of credit has to go to the teammates of Ismaila Sarr as well for involving him more, because it does feel like he is more of a team player. More of a team player. Not to say that he wasn't before, because there were points that he was getting involved and we could see glimpses of it, and that's where it was frustrating. Like against Wickham away when he got his goal, and we could see that the potential was there, and now he's met that potential and we're seeing more of it. And I think a lot of the credit has to go to players like João Pedro and like Kiko Femenia, who involve him in the play. We're playing a much wider, expansive play at the moment, and Ismaila Sarr is at the heart of that. He's connecting with the central midfielders when Zinknagel might drift out to the right, when Cleverley before his injury would. Will Hughes is obviously absolutely everywhere, and that's a given. But just seeing how the teammates also work for Sarr, and then Sarr works back for them as a result, is really great to see, and it will be crucial for the run-in that they're all on the same page, because it does feel that way. It does feel like the whole team is on the same page now.
Yeah, Sam Gomek.
I just feel like as well with Ismail Sarr that under Ivic, I felt like he had to be much more disciplined in terms of, the five at the back. He had to track back much more. And obviously at the moment, I feel like we are seeing much more of him tracking back, getting more physical. As Mike says, he doesn't really shy away from the big guys. But I feel like the handbrake's been let off with him, that he's kind of got a free role now. I think we see a lot more now how he drifts centrally, less so tonight, but particularly in the home games, we see him much more in the central areas now, where he's able to pick up the ball and drive at defenders. There was actually a really good run tonight as well, I think, towards the start of the second half, where he ran through the heart of the Rotherham defence and I think passed it to João Pedro, who couldn't hit the target. But it's just so he's fulfilling his price tag. And I think for me, from a business perspective, that's the most important thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts actually on Xisco Munoz. Obviously, you've spoke about him from the Rookery End. You've talked about it on the podcast. So make sure you do go and give that a listen if you're not listening to it already. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing. The link's in the description. Mike, it's been an incredible turnaround from that Coventry game. I think it's 8 wins in 9 for Watford. Not only the results have picked up, the performances have picked up quite dramatically as well. What is your take on Xisco Munoz and what he's changed in this Watford team, and how impressed have you been by what he's done to this Watford team?
Yeah, I mean, that we had that little clutch of poor performance, didn't we? We lost to QPR, and then there was that dreadful game at Coventry where I think we all gave up, didn't we? We thought there's no way this Watford side are going to get promoted. So to put it in that context, you have to give him a huge amount of credit for turning it around. I mean, the performances, not just the results, but more importantly for us, I think the performances have just been chalk and cheese, haven't they? They've been a million times better. So you have to give him credit. I would say that all season, we've been looking at the Watford team sheet and sort of scratching our head a little bit, saying it's actually quite difficult to get this group of players to play that badly. So he has got in front of him a pretty decent squad. All the players we talked about tonight, Zinkernagel's the only real one that's come in sort of halfway through the season. So he has almost got a bit of an embarrassment of riches at his disposal for a championship squad. But he had to turn around what was a pretty sorry state of affairs, didn't he? It was very turgid. The players weren't enjoying themselves. You'd imagine, like Sam reminded us, that Ismail Sarr could be forgiven for wanting to get out in January. So to turn everything around, the performances, the body language, the belief, for not just on the pitch but off the pitch for us guys as well, because I'm sure like you, we were scratching our head thinking, where do we go from here? And so all credit to him. How much the injury to Troy forced his hand in terms of the switch from to 4-3-3, which is basically the moment he changed, that was the moment it all fell into place. So had Troy not been injured, would he have made the move? We'll never know. He did. And the results have followed. So I think in football you've got to be good and lucky. So perhaps a little bit of that. But I think with this squad, so much is about man motivating. We saw the impact that Nigel Pearson had when he came in. The players all looked, chests out. They all looked a foot taller, didn't they, under Pearson? Because I think he was good at that initially, certainly. And these guys are definitely playing for Munoz. And, I think like that Sam alluded to earlier, it's really important the way that they're playing for Ismail Sarr. They're playing for each other. They believe in each other. You saw the celebrations on the touchline at Cardiff on Saturday evening. They're in it together now. And that, I didn't feel like that was the case before. And you have to put that down to the head coach. I think he's doing a terrific job after taking over in pretty difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I think Mike's absolutely bang on there, isn't he, Sam? About Xisco Munoz, and you've sung his praises, haven't you? About his motivation, the change in mentality in this Watford team. I think you've actually said Watford have gone from quite an unlikable squad. This Watford squad have gone quite unlikable. We didn't really have a connection there. I think we can all admit. From if you take back to the commentary game, we're all thinking, as Mike said, where are we going? But now it's become one of the most likable group of players in the space of 9 games. Can you put your finger on why that's happened?
I think obviously the formation change is a massive thing, but just expanding on that point before I answer the question, I remember coming out of the Coventry game, and I remember saying after the QPR defeat at home that this is one of my lowest moments as a Watford fan, not because of the results on the pitch or anything, just because I'd never felt so disconnected from not just the football club, but from the team itself. They just seemed low within themselves, lack of confidence, lack of belief that they could do anything. And I think first and foremost, as Mike alluded to, I think it's so important to have, before you get all tactical about things and, analyse the games, you have to, get the players on side with man management. And I feel like that's what he's done. He's got them believing in themselves again. He's utilising young talent within the squad. He's bringing through young talents such as Joseph Hungbo, who unfortunately we didn't get to see tonight. But it just makes me happy watching Watford again. And I was saying it every single time, but I look forward to the games. I was at school all day, just thinking about the game all day. And it used to be like, oh, here we go again, not again tonight. But I obviously feel like the formation change was a big part in us changing the way we play and changing our fortunes. But it's just the way he's put his arm around this Watford squad as a collective. And I feel like that's also important, saying how we're now a collective. We're not a team of individuals. We're an actual team now. And we're playing for each other. And it's just a pleasure to watch.
Elliot, I wanted to bring you in there on Xisco because obviously he loves you, you love him. Oh, I think we might have frozen at this point. I'll tell you what, Mike.
It's Xisco on the phone. Just to
Xisco's just come in. Yeah, we're off to the Premier League, Elliot. No, I'm joking. Mike, I wanted to get just going back onto tonight. Xisco Munoz' decision to make all 5 substitutions, which he hasn't done in previous games. If we actually look at them here, it was Jeremy Ngaka, Dan Gosling who went on to score. Andre Gray, as you mentioned, who probably could have scored a hat-trick. I's success, Carlos Sanchez. Is that something that he's improved on, do you think, Xisco, in terms of... change there. Mike, in terms of Xisco Munoz's tactical approach? Because I think at times, arguably, he's been slightly naive with maybe some of the way he's approached maybe before the 4-3-3, but that improvement has been there for all to see. What have you made of tonight in his tactical approach?
I suspect he's probably getting braver and more confident, and he's starting to know and trust his players a little bit more, and knowing what he can get out of his players and what he's going to get when he makes those substitutions. I think tonight's a difficult one to judge him against because, as we said, really the game was done and dusted at half time. And I know we were talking on the WhatsApp group, talking about various people about, who should we make changes at half time, really, because at 3-0, you're over the hill and home and host, and it's about protecting our star players, isn't it, really? So I think tonight, slightly different. It was going to take something catastrophic for us not to win the game. So I was pleased he did it. But what it does show is there is talent for him to bring on, isn't it? So he can afford to be brave. I think it's really interesting talking about going into these last 9 games. I can't believe we're down to single digits now. There's only 9 games left. But protecting the players, but also I think we need to be starting our first 11 as often as we can. So that does mean he's going to have to rely on those subs. And yeah, it's going to be, I think he does need to be a little bit more flexible. We're going to have to manage games. We've got some really, really tricksy ones coming up, not least, we've got Norwich, Brentford, Swansea.
Middlesbrough, I think, as well. Yeah.
Luton is obviously going to be a huge challenge. Teams like Millwall, very difficult to play against in different ways. And we have to learn to manage that. And part of that, a big part of managing those games is substitutions. And I think you're probably right. I think so far in his Watford career, whether he would say he's 100% happy with all the changes he's made, probably not. But I think this Watford side is allowing him to be a little bit braver and a little bit more confident in the changes he makes. Whether we'll see 5 again in the near future, I very much doubt. I just think tonight was a little bit different, and it was more a case of let's get those guys in cotton wool, get their feet up, and get them ready for a massive game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Elliot, we had a few technical difficulties there. It was just getting a little bit excited that we're 9 games away from the Premier League. But Elliot, on tonight, I wanted to ask you about Daniel Bachmann, actually. We saw it earlier on in the season away at Oxford United. He put in a heroic display in the penalty shootout. Again, Rotherham scored. If they had scored the penalty and they had scored their actual goal, it would have been a nervy finish. Daniel Bachmann tonight, improvement. Sam, you've been a little bit critical, haven't you, about his claiming of crosses and his commanding of the penalty area. But for you, Elliot, what did you make of his performance tonight? Then we'll go to Sam.
I thought it was very good. Obviously, if you save a penalty, you're going to go. It's going to go down as a very good performance. So I'm delighted for him, and I think he deserved it. But there were a couple of moments that I think, again, it's the commanding of the box that I think maybe could have been a little bit better. But there were a couple of times, again, if we're flipping that he did very well, and he came out and he collected the crosses really well. So really happy for him. I've sort of got this system now after basically telling myself that Adam Messina wouldn't score on the weekend from the free kick. I then told myself again that there was no way that Daniel Bachmann could save the penalty tonight because that's just not what happens in football. And it worked again. So maybe if I just say things won't happen, they'll start to happen. So, but yeah, on Daniel Bachmann, another very good performance. And yeah, has he nailed down the number 1 spot now? with Foster back, I think Xisco's got a difficult choice to make, and I'd be interested to see what happens, because I think it was mentioned in Ben Foster's video recently that Rob Elliott was only out of the squad due to tonsillitis. So Foster was sort of, I don't know if he was rushed back necessarily, but he was brought back because of a need to have a senior goalkeeper in the squad. So I'd be interested to know whether the reason he's omitted from the first team, from the starting 11, is because of him still not being quite right, or whether it's because Daniel Bachmann has now nailed on that starting spot. We'll probably see for sure after the international break, and it'll be an interesting one. I don't think he should rotate, because I've seen a couple of calls to go sort of week in, week out, switch it up. But I think we need a consistent goalkeeper. In my opinion, I think we need to keep Daniel Bachmann in there. I think he's proven tonight why he deserves to keep the number 1 spot. Yeah.
Sam, go on, just on Daniel back before we wrap it up, mate.
Yeah, no, it's just so good to see. I remember it was just about 10 minutes in, and he came out to the edge of the box and he kicked the ball away, really decisive on the edge of his area. I think he headed the ball away, and there were a couple of times he caught the ball from corners and punched the ball away. So it's definitely something he's working on, and the penalty save really capped it off. So yeah, really good to see from Dan Bachmann.
Mike, just to wrap up tonight, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, by the way, Mike, and we'd love to get you back on again. And actually, funnily enough, breaking news, this is the highest number we've ever had on a WD18 live stream. The Mike Parkin fan club has come along. And the numbers have
come on to abuse me, mate. I know the real reason.
Mike, there is 9 games left of this season. We sit second in the league. Swansea and Brentford have a game in hand each. Swansea obviously 3 points behind us. Brentford are now 5 points behind us after tonight's results. Are you starting to believe that we can go up, or is it? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Are you starting to believe that we can go up, Mike?
It's in my nature to be super pessimistic the whole time. You guys know that. I'm sure it's all football supporters are. The self-preservation, isn't it? But look, I'll ask you guys: do you fear anyone in this division? And my answer is no. I think that on our day, we can beat every single team in this division. That includes Norwich, that includes Brentford, that includes Swansea. And if you're going to get promoted out of the Championship, you need to put your big boy trousers on and turn in big boy performances. We've been doing that so far. There's no reason, if we can keep everyone fit, avoid suspensions. I saw Sierralta was creeping up towards, I think that was his 8th booking tonight. But if we can keep that starting 11 playing the way they are, I fear absolutely nobody in this division. And I think this team, as we've talked about tonight, will be backing each other. They'll be backing themselves to perform week in, week out. There's international call-ups, which gives everyone a little bit of a lift as well. Talking about Dan Bachmann, he's got that Austrian international call-up. So that this team can beat everyone, and I would expect them to beat almost everyone. So absolutely no doubt about it that this team can get promoted. And it's entirely down to them. It's going to be really, really exciting running, much more exciting than we thought it was going to be 6 weeks ago. So I'm here for it. I can't wait. And hopefully get a chance to
love it, Mike. Absolutely love it.
Weeks.
Yeah, great. Will be great to have you on. Thank you so much, Mike, for your time tonight. Thank you to everyone who watched. Elliot, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you did enjoy the live stream, please do leave a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe to the channel if you're new. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WD18fans. We'll see you very soon. Come on, you Hornets.